Hi, good afternoon, Mark, Lauren. Good to see you again. I'm glad you were able to make it in this afternoon. I know you're both very busy, but I thought it was really important to have you come in because I've done the majority of the work on your plan, and I really thought it was important to begin talking to you about one of the more important goals that you expressed to me, which was education planning for not only your daughter Mary, but you expressed to me you were interested in helping out Lauren, your daughter Beverly, her two children, which are your grandchildren. Um, I know you haven't begun saving yet, but I really do think after you hear what I've said, we do have plenty of time to work on this goal, and I've outlined some recommendations that I think are going to allow you to accomplish this goal in a way that's going to make you both very happy. So just to kind of go over everything again, Mary, I know is 5 years old, and your grandchildren are also about that same age. So we're starting from the same starting point for all of the children. Now, my understanding is, Mary, extremely intelligent, little girl, and you feel like she will most likely be attending, say, like an Ivy League caliber school for her undergraduate, and then also going on for 2 more years of graduate school. So we'll be looking at 6 years of schooling altogether. And I know after you've sent both your other children, Susie and David, to school, they went to Harvard, and that cost about $40,000 a year. So you have a pretty good sense that that's probably an amount in today's dollars that we should use as a starting point. Now, with your grandchildren, again, you want to help, but Beverly and her husband both work. There are the other grandchildren who will contribute. So you're going to see from my assumptions, you're not going to be funding 100% of all 4 years of their education. You're going to be contributing an amount that's going to be, viewed as very helpful, and it's going to be a generous amount. So one of the first things we need to discuss is, how much our college costs going up every year. They're going up by about 7% is what we're going to assume. Unfortunately, that is a cost that's going up a lot greater than inflation. So when we're thinking about how much college is going to cost by the time the children are of college age in about 13 years, it's going to cost a very different amount than the $40,000 today. The other thing is we need to keep in mind we ideally are going to need the investments that we're going to use to fund the savings in the future to grow faster than that rate. So I know at one point you had mentioned to me possibly looking at growth stocks. And yes, growth stocks are going to get us that higher rate of return of about 10%. But I don't think it's appropriate to use growth stocks for the entire time. That's because while, maybe now in these early years we can afford to take more risk because there's more time to recover from losses, as we get closer to when the children begin college, we can't afford really high levels of risk in the portfolio. If there's a year where growth stocks really perform poorly, we could be putting the ability to fund their education at risk. So we are going to assume a more diversified asset allocation, one where the average annual rate of return is about 9%. And I'll talk a little bit more about ways to accomplish that. So what we need to do as far as how I went about calculating this and thinking about this is, what is the amount that you would need to put away today to fund all of the years that the children are in school. So if you think about it, 13 years from now, when all three children are in school, and Mary's education is costing the $40,000 a year in today's dollars, and then I'm going to assume $5,000 a year for each of the two children, and that'll be for 4 years. So for 4 years, you can think of the cost being $50,000 a year, the $40,000 plus 5 plus 5. But then for years 5 and 6, it's just going to be Mary in school, so that'll be 40 and 40. So what I basically do is I factor in you earning an average return of 9% plus the 7% rate of inflation for college, and I use that to come up with a present value in today's dollars of how much you would need to put away to pay those costs. And what I come up with is a sum of about $210,791.53. And then what I do is factoring in you being able to get that 9% average rate of return over the next 13 years. That works out to you having to deposit about $28,154 a year, at the end of each year to save to be able to afford those education costs. The way that I think we're going to go about doing this is, while there are several vehicles you could use, really it's the vehicle, the 529 plan, that I think makes the most sense. Basically the 529 plan is going to allow you to save money in a tax-advantaged way for the education of the children. As long as you put the money towards qualified secondary education expenses such as tuition, room and board, books, the earnings growth on your investments will be tax-free, and then in fact there could even be some other state tax advantages in terms of being able to deduct some of your contributions. And really with the 529 plan, one of the options that might be available is age-based investment strategies, meaning the plan administrator, knowing what age the children are today and knowing what kind of period of time we have until they go to college, will start investing more aggressively to get a higher rate of return while the children are young. And then as we get closer to the start of college, the asset allocation will become more conservative, so we're not taking as much risk. And I think that's how we're able to get an average return of about 9%. I think that's achievable. There are other benefits of the 529 plan. Changing of beneficiaries is one, although it doesn't apply in every case. You can change the beneficiary without tax consequences as long as the new beneficiary is a member of the family of the old beneficiary. Unfortunately, in this case, I don't think you would be able to do something where you could change it from, say, Mary to one of the grandchildren or vice versa, because you would possibly then trigger gift tax consequences. But there could be other circumstances where the ability to change the beneficiaries might be beneficial. I just do want to mention there are some other savings vehicles that you may have heard of, and I think you were wondering about. You may have heard the terms UGMA or UTMA, Uniform Gift to Minors, for UGMA, and then the Uniform Transfers to Minors are some of the other programs that are available to assist with savings for college, but I don't think those are the most appropriate in this case. The UGMA and UTMA, basically there's really no tax advantage for you there. You get more flexibility with how you can invest the money, but you do have to keep in mind the assets are they're owned by the minor, and they will gain control of them at the age of majority, and they can use them for whatever they wish, not just necessarily education. So that's something that I don't think that makes the most sense in this case. And then there's something called a Coverdell account. They were a lot more popular at one point, as long as you were using the assets for education, again, tax-free. But the amount you could put into one of those accounts to save, a lot more limited. You wouldn't be able to achieve the goals that I outlined. And then the other thing is there are limitations as far as how much income you can earn to use one of those. And again, that would also be a limitation in your case. So again, I think this brings us back to the 529 plan being the most appropriate vehicle for saving for the children. So I hope you found this useful. Definitely, looking forward to when we have more time so we can talk about some of the other goals that you mentioned wanting to go over. But really, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time. Otherwise, think about that, and then let's talk a little bit more when you have more time.